miners were attempting to block the access road to the pit, and they succeeded.
That's what this is all about. They're not allowing us to speak to the scabs and tell them where they're going wrong.
We were just a little raindrop in the ocean to the whole experience, but I think it made me realise who the good people are and who the bad people are. Just to deliver aid packages. It was the Carlisle office of the ETPU asked for volunteers who were in the union to do this. Well, pretty similar. Council houses, rented housing, social housing really, and it was generally working class people, but once the strike happened and they dug their heels in, that's when they started struggling, because people lived hand to mouth. Not a lot of people had savings back then. What we had, we were getting on a weekly basis. They would be the same. Well, basically when we got there, we just I thought I was going along to help. Of course you do. For a 15-year-old, you think you're going to help. But I think my dad just took us along for the jaunt. And when we got there and there was lads my age standing around outside the Miners' Club, my dad just says, "You go and look after them lads." And one of them had a knackered old football, and I'd taken my ball in case. We went out onto the green at Langley Moor and we had a kickabout. And then when we got tired and we seen all the work was done, unloaded, we went back to the van. One of the lads found his dad, and we sort of struck the deal to get some pop and crisps, and we sat outside waiting for the fellas while they were having a pint. And we sat and had our pop and crisps and had a bit of a chat. So I had a nice new pair of Adidas trainers on, and he looked at my feet and looked at this lad and said to me, "Don't you think that lad would like a new pair?" I says, "Well, he maybe would." And he goes, "Well, you know, he's struggling, it could be a couple of years before he gets any new shoes. Do you not think you could?" And I looked at him and I knew what he wanted. He said, "Do you not think you could maybe let him have yours and we'll get you some new ones?" Knowing fine well I'd paid for them. So at the time I didn't understand, but I do now. But I just looked at him and said, "Yeah, then, do you want to swap shoes?" Well, I think I felt a bit cheated as a 15-year-old because I'd worked. Kids that age back then had jobs. You had a job from 12 or 13. I give it them because I actually started thinking to myself after he'd made us give me trainers to the lad. I thought, well, poor buggers, they've gotten out. They might as well have me ball as well. And so that's why I fired my ball. I do. I think we've lost sense of community in a lot of places, a lot of people. I think there's a lot of selfish people in modern Britain, a lot of little indoor back alley clubs that don't look after working class people. We're all human beings at the end of the day, and I think if we all behaved like we behaved in years gone by, the world would be a better place. It brought working class people together, of course it did. It made us stop and think about how a government could treat working people. Yeah, the people worked damn hard, they deserved every penny they got, and they were being shafted by, in my mind, a corrupt government. So it was disgusting the way they were treated, and I know fine well that they brought military personnel in unmarked police uniforms, because I personally spoke to some. When I was in the forces, I personally spoke to some Marines who were there, and their orders were basically to beat up the miners, nothing else.
Do you know what hit you?
Well, yes, a truncheon. But I mean, it's the same as I say. I have never thrown a missile from day one, but they don't segregate them from missile throws, do they?
I think it's something I didn't pay much attention to at the time, but I do think they portrayed the miners in a negative way. It's like anything, the government they can pull strings within its national press, and I think to get the best stories they did.
At the exec meeting in Sheffield, there was a lot of publicity given to a policeman who walked away from the scene with a cut eye and a bit of blood. But a man was actually filming in an area where two policemen were beating up a young lad, a lad of about 18, 19. And the cameraman, when he saw what was going off, turned to the other way and ignored it. And that never got to television. They never showed Skygill shouting at the crowd, "Calm down, lads, we don't want any trouble." They showed him talking, and the way they put it over, he was stirring trouble. And that just wasn't true. It's been twisted every which way but loose to suit the people who are in power at the moment.
I think it was common decency, and what you're taught in any branch of the military, I was only in the Navy, but any branch of the military, you're taught to look after the weaker person, you're there to protect people. I think that was the main lesson I was taught that day, was to look after people less fortunate than myself. Not by using politics, just common decency and being a good person. And that's all there is to say, really. It's not, I could go in a long-winded debate about what I think of politicians, modern politicians and people in power, but the lesson I learned there was how to be a decent person, how to treat people. I could talk for hours about those experiences. We were just a little raindrop in the ocean to the whole experience, but I think it made me realise who the good people are and who the bad people are. And it's not always what media and government say.